Hi, this is Bernard from DT.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Hope you had a good start into this new year.
You as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm dropping, hello, Happy New Year. I'm dropping the Etherpad into the chat. If everybody wouldn't mind just having their name.
Well, good morning, good evening.
Hello. Hopefully everybody can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it, Lucy.
Perfect. Whenever you want to get started, then we can wait a couple minutes. Like,
Yeah, so let's wait for a couple of more minutes. I see folks are still joining. We usually start at 9:03.
perfect.
All right, I think we have a quorum, I believe. Let's move forward with the slides. And I think we can quickly go over the attendance, Lucy. If you go ahead and go to the slide number, I think it was 5.
This is a reminder for general antitrust. Those are antitrust laws. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to legal counsel and we can get you the answers. The Zoom meeting, Etherpad.
Yeah, let's quickly go through, and I think people who are already here, I think just go through the attendance, and I think let's take a roll call. Lucy, you want to go
Yes.
go take the notes?
Perfect. I'm looking through. Sandeep, are you on? Yeah. Aaron or Errol? I saw Daniel from Bell Canada.
Yep.
I believe I also saw, I saw Sandeep as well. Perhaps not. Eric from Casa. I know I saw Bernard. And Oleg from Equinix. I know I saw Erickson, Lucian, believe Sanchu's on, right? Yep. Cannon's
Yes,
here.
both me and Ravi are here. Yes.
Perfect. Kathy or Sundar?
I'm here. Sundar here.
Sebastian? Don't see Jane? Timo? I thought
Yes,
there was
here.
some. Eric? I see people still trickling in as well. Don't think I've seen don't think I've seen Sana yet. Fabrizio? Jean? I know I saw Hunor and Padma.
Present. Hunor is
Hello.
present. Hello.
And Ian and Ricardo. Okay, and then Ben.
I'll be proxy to bin this issue here. Hi guys, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Perfect. Great. There's Jane. Perfect. Kenan, I think we do have quorum. Just going through the list.
Yeah,
quickly.
so we don't have any specific voting, but the second half, LF Legal is going to join to discuss about the licensing. So it's good to have everybody on call. So let's move on to the next slide, please, to the agenda item. So I think we're going to talk about the events, and then we will have a SIG updates, and we also will talk about the CLA. There's some clarification around it, and I think LF Legal will join in the second part of the call, and we will have a discussion, and we'll get an update from them as well. So with that, let's go to the slides themselves. All right, so first of all, I want to thank you, the whole community. And we started this community sometime around April, and you know, the community has really grown like quite a big now. Like there are 73 companies plus they are participating as part of this community. So really appreciate all the contribution that come in. Especially as we discussed on the previous TSC calls, it was a great fun, and to really get the initial version of the Nephio demonstrated in the last summit. And Happy New Year to everyone. And on behalf of TSC, I think we are looking forward to deliver release 1 and in the April-May timeframe, and also you know, go beyond the release 1, right? So I think that's a primary goal for 2023. And with that, I think we have a set of action items that we have defined, and the areas of focus and additional contribution and some discussions that we were planning on the last summit. And we will tee up on those on the SIG group as well as in the TSC calls as well. So with that said, so welcome everyone to this year with you know, like with the goals of like delivering release 1 and beyond. And if anybody want to add anything, and please go ahead. Any TSC member or anybody in the community want to add anything, please go ahead and add. If there are no questions or no comments, then we can move on to the next agenda item.
Hey, Kandan, Timo here. Maybe I can ask if there's any information about the code, the initial code delivery. I think we saw something like December, January during the summit. So any kind of more detailed timeline for that?
I'm not sure I follow your question actually. So which delivery you're talking about, Timo?
I think there was some discussion during the summit that there will be further seed code coming in.
So you're talking about Yes. So we are actually working on, like, I think so I think there are a couple of things that already have happened. So Google has contributed a bunch of code, a seed code already, which is something community is well aware on the previous discussions, and the workshop has used some of those code. And we also contributed a set of code around CRDs and network function related items on the last year itself. And I think those are already in the repository. And we are in the process of, like contributing more code. Sometime I think, like that definitely would come in before the release one. And I would leave it to SIG groups to have that discussion and figure out how to insert those codes and stuff like that. But we are in the plan to actually deliver that code with respect to the community, right? So I don't have the full detail here, and I think Tal and the team can actually talk about that. John is also not here on the call; he's still on vacation, and I think the discussion will happen in the SIG group with the further details around it. Team. So the goal is to really get R1 successful, and we are very committed, like the way we are committed in 2022. We are committed in 2023 as well to get this release one out, and whatever that is required to make that happen is what primarily we are working towards.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. And any other question, or anybody else want to add anything on this? And I think from a TSC perspective, I think we had a bunch of action item I have not listed out here. It's in the slides and the meeting notes that we have shared. So even though we are very focused on release one, and there are certain items like support for Helm chart, support for conversion for a young model and stuff like that, the discussion really came in. So let's have a discussion around that, both in the SIG group and the next TSC call, and flush out some of those things. And I think if there is a need to have like a bunch of additional TSC call, I think I would encourage it actually in January and February. We can have a further discussion because this call is something we are mainly using for status update and stuff like that. And I think probably we need a bunch of additional calls for us to discuss additional items that we have figured it out or listed out in the last workshop. And I will coordinate with all of you to sort of schedule like additional call where we can have a further discussion on those areas as well. And if there are any topic that you believe that need to be discussed, feel free to send it out to me and Sana. And I think Sana is not on the call here. I think she's still on vacation, and we will slot that for the discussion on either on this TSC regular call, or we can schedule additional call for the discussion. So with that, let's go to the next slide, please. So this is a reminder for the SIG group 2 for automation vice chair election. And as you all know that we call for an election from TSC to have select the SIG group 2 automation vice chair, as Tal was stepping down from the role. And we started the nomination on December 12th as per the TSC approval. And the nomination ends tomorrow. And there is already one nomination, which is actually listed out on this particular wiki page. And if you're interested to run for it, and please go ahead and actually update this particular document by today. And by tomorrow, which is 6th. And so that we can actually, if there's only one nomination, there will not be any election. We will announce the winner. If there are multiple nominations, then there would be an election as part of the process that is listed out on our community document. Anybody has any question? All right, so let's go to the next slide, please. So, there's many of you have really expressed interest to facilitate an event in MWC. And I think there's a lot of telecom. Of course, MWC is a place where a lot of telecoms gather along with the network function vendor. So it would be really good to have like some sort of a social event. I don't know, we can actually fully arrange, like a full workshop sort of a thing, like the way we had it in Seattle. It will be very hard to arrange it within a short time frame. So I reached out to MWC the people who are organizing this event and trying to figure out, like any, we can actually secure a booth. And I think it's already late, but I'm still trying to see whether we can secure a booth. But irrespective of that, we would like to arrange a social event in which, like our team members can meet. And this is also a great opportunity to socialize with other telecom members and network function vendors and other people in the industry, so that they can be well aware of the Nephio and have them participate and also understand the value of it. So, so I think what we are looking for is that we are looking for sponsors. And if you're interested, if your company is interested to be a sponsor, please let me know. Send me an email, and I can coordinate with you. So we are looking for like a couple of sponsors that along with us, so that we can actually arrange the social event in the Barcelona. The other important thing is that we would like to know how many other people are actually attending. So if you could raise your hand, if you are going into MWC, please raise your hand so that we know that how many people are actually planning to be there. But again, not every community member is on this call, but I hope like at least few of our TSC members are showing up there. So that's there is a value in arranging such a social event there. I already see that one hand raised. Is anybody else going into MWC? Looks like a travel ban is still in there. I don't see any hand raised, but again, if you are going to MWC and if you have any change in plan, like you want to be there, or if any of your community or company members are going to be there, please let me know. Send me in a private email, or you can actually even respond to the TSC thread, and we can actually catch up from there. But again, if you're interested to sponsor for a social event, please let me know, and we can actually arrange a co-sponsored event at the MWC. Okay, so I think that's primarily it. So I think Timo, you wanted to talk about the DNTF. So can you please talk about it? I think whatever you want to share with the community.
Yes, thanks, Kandan. Yeah, that was I wanted to give a kind of a heads up for this community. So Linux Foundation Networking is organizing a virtual developer and testing forum 13th to 16th of February. This is an event where all the LFN hosted projects will have a chance to have their sort of virtual face-to-face discussion about their own project issues, so technical topics, or then cross-project collaboration topics. And I'm at the program committee of the event, and in our meeting just before the break, it was brought up that there is definite interest within the LFN community about Nephio, and therefore the idea was to bring this up with Nephio community, this event, and if there would be interest from this community to be present during that week, DNTF, in some of these sessions, either together as a collaboration exercise with some of the projects, or to present project itself to the other participating communities. So it's very open invitation. There are no strings attached. The only limitation is the logistics. So it will be 13th to 16th of February, and current plan is that it will be early hours of the day Pacific time for 4.5 hours, like 2 hours, half-hour break and 2 hours. No other plans are yet made, no kind of scheduling or anything like that. So any kind of anything that this community would like to propose, I think that would be welcome to the event planners. So I think that's in a nutshell. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, but to keep it short.
Yeah, so thank you, Timo. I really appreciate it. And I think if there is a need for presenting Nephio and educating these people about the Nephio, either you can actually do it, I can help you with the material. There's already a standard material that we have it on the wiki page, but if there are additional material needed, happy to help you with that. But if you need more people from our community come and present it, and I don't know how the collaboration would really work and what perspective. I think given you are expert on that community, I think you could probably help us to figure out, like, is there any common synergy that we can bridge together between these communities?
Sure. As it happens, we just had our ONEP TSC call, and there it was kind of brought up that there seems to be a definite interest within ONEP community to kind of better understand Nephio and possible touch points between these two projects. I mean, in terms of what's the scope, but also kind of in architectural perspective, that where do these two sit in a full architecture stack. So I think it would be a good idea to have a discussion within TSC shortly. What do we think would be, from Nephio point of view, valuable and beneficial, and then propose that over to the organizers.
Okay. Okay, so any other question or anybody want to bring in about any other events? And I think, so I think the next steps are actually at the, if you have any questions or ideas around what Timo has said, please share with him as well. So Timo, I think if you decide to present it, please let me know. I can help you with the materials.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Sure. And I think, again, for MWC, please let me know if you're interested to sponsor, and if you're planning to participate, please drop me an email as well, so that we can actually coordinate event together there. Okay, so with that, any other question on the event? If it is not, let's move on to the next item, please. Okay, so let's go with the SIG org updates. I see Kaushika, can you please provide an update on the SIG net org?
Yeah, so I unfortunately have not been able to attend the last couple sessions for scheduling issues, but from what I know, there have been follow-throughs on on various topics that we had identified on the agenda. The next set of immediate action items are the CIGAR community to help finalize the CRDs, as well as the high-level design scope for Nephio V1. Those are the two immediate targets for January to get started.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to add any additional items to the net org? Okay, so let's move to the SIG automation. Tal, I see that you're on the call. Can you provide update on the SIG automation? I think John is on vacation. He's not on the call today.
Sure, and yeah, if anybody else who joined the meetings wants to jump in and add detail, please do. So yes, since we haven't done much in the past month, but we did meet this week, and we went over a document that myself and others created to start under. So what we're trying to tackle right now is the infrastructure requirements and the CRDs that would define those infrastructure requirements. So we had a few presentations last month before the break, and we're trying to bring them all together into alignment, at least conceptually, that we know what we're doing, and then to actually create those CRDs. So yes, we understand we want to make them ready by the end of this month. So hopefully we'll move ahead and find alignment.
So one question, Tal, was that, so we don't have this, particularly the infra and the cluster management aspects as part of release 1. Is that something that will be inserting into the document?
I guess so. I'm not clear on that.
Okay. No, I wanted to ask Kaushik as well. Probably he wasn't. He's
Yeah.
not. Probably he was not part of this
Yeah,
discussion.
maybe Tal, this is an area where the 3.6 will need to be a little bit more tightly looped. What we had done
Correct.
historically with NetArc was define the product scope and the user journeys for R1, the release. And we should make sure the other 2.6 are taking that as the input and then defining the automation and release scope tied to that.
So the issue was put on the agenda by John before the break. So I just don't know exactly what he was thinking in that regard. So I think we would have to bring the question to him when he gets back. I'm following his lead on that.
Yes,
Understood.
in terms
That's
of
fine.
release process, we still open for feature additions. So you're not obviously out of that line yet at this point. So yeah, just propose it, I guess, in SIG 2 to make sure that it actually gets into the release.
Yeah, what I suggest is let's touch base the chairs on the 3.6 offline. Let's just make sure we have good alignment. It's okay to expand the scope or change the scope, but let's be deliberate if we are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Technically, I'm a temporary co-chair, so I think this will go soon to whoever is the new co-chair.
That is, the discussion is done. One other update I wanted to provide. I know Pim is also here. So as of December 16th, I think there was a good, we updated the workshop related POC and the steps. So at this point of time, anybody can go into the GitHub, the one workshop summit GitHub, and should be able to try out what we did in the workshop. So that's a good accomplishment to call out from SIG 2.
Could you please link that to the chat?
Oh, what I wanted to say was now we have a stable version of what we tried to do in the workshop in Seattle as of December 16th. We have a way to be able to install what was done in the workshop. You know, somebody could try it out in their own VM using some of the Ansible scripts and be able to walk through what was done in Seattle. You know, at that point of time, it was not complete, but now anybody should be able to go to the one workshop GitHub and should be able to follow the instructions and set up something similar on their own VM.
All right, thank you. I think that's a really great progress. I really appreciate it for every team member who contributed into that. So with that, any other question or anything else anybody want to bring in on the SIG automation? All right, so let's move to the SIG release. Stephen, can you provide a quick update?
Yeah, so so the great thing is we created a test repo, Nephio test, to test Prow, and then that's working. So that's greatly attributed to Arwen from Google that's been working on this. So for next week's SIG 3 meetings, we'll make a presentation and talk about this. It's an ongoing thing that we've been looking at using the ONE Summit's test setups for functional tests. And as Vish said, right now it's pretty stable. So we'll try to see how we automate creation of this and then mix in test cases for func test. So with Prow going, the only other things we need actually to Kirk is Linux Foundations to provide us a Docker registry so that we can when we build images, we have some place to actually put the artifacts on. So otherwise, we are sort of, once we get things going, we should be ready for having the process of getting official code instead of POC code onto an Nephio code base. And that's all for me.
Okay, so thank you, Stephen. All right, so anybody has any other question or anything else you want to update on the SIG updates? All right, so with that, let's go to the next agenda item. I see Scott. Thanks, Scott, for joining. So let's go to the CLA part. See, I think the bottom line is like there's a couple of questions came up on the last TSC calls around licensing. And the left-hand side, we have a screenshot of what is already in the Nephio charter. The charter is in the Nephio website. And people wanted clarification around especially the bullet number B2. And there's some clarification came from Scott, and I think Scott, you are on the call, and if you could actually help us on like you know how to interpret this language. And I think the important aspect is that we did not want to reinvent the wheel, and we just want to follow what other LF projects are following. And I think that's why we adopted the same language as the other communities in LF with respect to the charter when you originally helped to write the charter. So with that, I think your inputs are super helpful. Please go ahead.
Certainly. Thank you. And I think I've met a number of you. For those of you that I haven't met, I'm Scott Nicholas. I'm Vice President of Project Formation for the Linux Foundation. I am one of the attorneys for the Linux Foundation. I can't give legal advice, but I think we can easily work through the questions that you have right now. On the left-hand side, we've got a copy of the charter language. And so contributions are made under the Apache 2.0 license, and that code is made available under that license. The section that was referenced, 7B2, talks about using a contributor license agreement. And this is a document that is signed in order to enable contribution to the Nephio repos. And it essentially puts a signature behind the license grants, specifically behind a patent license grant. So one apology to start with, I might have answered the wrong question. So let's not spend too much time on the information on the right-hand side, which has to do with whether you have code that you want to contribute under a different license. There's a mechanism for that. If there are questions about that, we can certainly talk to that point, but let's focus on CLAs for right now. The CLA that we use is a modified Apache Software Foundation CLA. It's modified in a couple simple regards. One, we have tooling to automate the CLA. So we put together a tooling infrastructure that is called Easy CLA. And what it does is it allows all organizations to have a CLA manager or managers, and those managers are responsible for identifying which employees by email address are authorized to contribute under an organization's CLA. So that does a couple things. It gives all of your companies control as to who is contributing under your CLA and therefore making the license grants in the contributor license agreement as contributions are made. And you can make changes as you bring on new employees and as employees leave. The original Apache Software Foundation CLA didn't have that sort of a manager concept. And so that's one of the changes. And then of course, the other change is we make the counterparty signing the CLA opposite the organization that's going to contribute under the CLA, the project itself. So the Nephio legal entity would be indicated as the organization that's receiving the benefit of the license commitments. We have standardized forms that are already prepared. We can have Lucy send those around to you. We have an Easy CLA team. And once your questions are answered, we can onboard you to that tool and you can start to operate under it. What it means is no one would be able to make a commitment to the repo until, of course, their ID is listed under an assigned CLA. And so that's a bit of a process that when you want to turn on the CLA system, you'll just have to understand that if someone hasn't gotten one signed, they at that point when you turn it on, they of course wouldn't be able to contribute until they became subject to a CLA. Let me pause right there. I've thrown out a lot of information in detail, and I'm sure there's questions. So let me see if there are questions.
Yeah, so let me let me start with the question, Scott. How far this has been used in the other LF communities from a process perspective, and how far this is a new process or this is existing process that's been out there for all community contributions?
Candid, very good question. So it's been a process that's been out there for a long time. We have, I forget the number of CLAs that we've signed, but it's in the thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. Contributor license agreements have been in use for an extended period of time, generally, and at the Linux Foundation. The enhancement that we brought to CLA, and we're on, I think, the second full release of Easy CLA, is manually administering CLA agreements is extremely painful and is prone to errors. And so that's why we introduced the Easy CLA tooling. I don't have the project count in terms of how many projects are on it. I would suspect that we have dozens of projects on Easy CLA. It is the primary approach that we take for managing CLAs. It's just not efficient to do it outside of an automated approach. So yeah, not new. We're on the second full release of Easy CLA. Yeah, other questions?
Yeah, so one more follow-up question. Using that particular methodology, does it require any changes to this charter or the bullet number 4 or whatever the bullets here? Does it cover?
Yeah, so very, very good question. It is compatible with the charter, and it's also compatible with making commitments under the developer certificate. But using a CLA is compatible with the charter. And so this charter does presume that there will be a CLA. And if you wanted to operate without a CLA, we would actually probably propose a modification to remove the CLA reference from the charter. I will say the trend in recent years has been to move past CLAs, but that doesn't work for every community, and we still support a large number of CLAs. We have many projects that use them. The trade-off on a CLA is always that you get the benefit of having a corporate signature behind the license commitments at the expense of the additional time required it takes to onboard a new contributor, because you have to get, if it's a brand new organization, you have to get a new signature. If it's a new employee, you have to get that person added to the appropriate list by the organization. And there's, pluses and minuses, and some projects feel the pluses are heavier and to the benefit, and other projects take a different approach. But as of right now, no charter changes are required for you to use a CLA. And in fact, if you wanted to not use a CLA, we would need to remove section B2.
Got it. I do have one more question, but I see that there is a question from Victor. So Victor, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah,
certainly.
Thanks, just probably I'm not an expert in licenses, but I have seen some projects using DCO instead of CLA. So any reason behind that to not use DCO for this?
Almost all of our projects use the DCO. Some of our projects use CLAs. Most, but not all of our projects that are using CLAs also use the DCO. So our view is you can use both. I think the way I'm looking at the charter right now, it's more focused on the CLA. The developer certificate of origin sign-off process is an attestation that the contribution is being made in accordance with the license grant of, in accordance with the rights as indicated in the license information in the file. We find it a useful approach to have, particularly with the passage of the European GDPR regulations. So I would say, almost all of our projects use it. I think Nephio is focused on the CLA.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Okay, anybody has any other question? I think Timo, you had a question. I see you're on the call. Do you have any additional questions?
Not really. I think what was explained was very, very good. No questions there. I think my topic was mostly related on when do we get the draft CLA so that we can get our legal folks to check it, because they ultimately then at the end of the day need to sign it for the company. So they need to be happy with it. It's just
Certainly.
a timing thing that if we get it sooner, then we get this all ball running sooner as well.
Yeah. We can have that distributed to this group today.
Excellent.
And Timo, if you're familiar with the OPNFV CLA, for example, it'll look very similar.
Right. Yeah. I'm the CLA manager for that company.
There
so
you
yeah,
go.
I'm familiar with that. Yes. Thanks.
Excellent. So yeah, we'll get you that in email to everybody today.
Okay, so Scott, I think the final question is like, once you distribute, what is the next step process from a TSC or a community perspective? What does need to close it? Like, is it an individual company has to react to it, or is there anything TSC level has to happen? Because here we have a reference in the charter, but is TSC has to do something, or what is the next step? Can you
So let us know that you're okay with the CLA agreement as we're proposing it, and we're ready to turn it on. Then we'll work with you on the mechanics of how it's turned on. So the thing that we want to make sure is that you're satisfied, with the CLA itself. Again, the changes from the standard form are very limited and focused on administrative and practical things versus a substantive change in rights. Let us know that the TSC is satisfied with the CLA, and then we can work to implement it. When it is implemented, all of the contributors, and I don't know how many active contributors you have right now, but there'll be a process where every organization will need to sign the CLA before a contribution can be made. And the way our system works is the repository, before allowing a contribution in, will do a check to the agreement and then do a yes or no, accordingly. And so I think, there'll be some planning to do just to let everybody know, when those should be signed. It is an online signing process. Again, it's a fully automated platform.
Okay, I think distribute the draft, and I think let all of us look at it. And I think this is going to add like a little bit of process overhead, in my opinion. So we need to check with our legal as well. So let's have a continued discussion on it.
Certainly.
Sure.
We can do that. Excellent.
Sure. Thank you. Really appreciate it, Scott. And please go ahead and actually share the draft with Lucy. And I think Lucy, you can actually put that into a wiki page and send the link to all the TSC members so that they all can see it. Okay?
Absolutely.
We will do that today.
Anybody has any final question for Scott? All right. Thank you, Scott. I really appreciate your time, and I'm pretty sure that
no problem. I'll drop. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you. All right, so with that, let's go to the next slide. And I think this is the last agenda item on today. Is anybody else has anything you want to bring in? All right, if not, Happy New Year, and looking forward to have a greater collaboration in 2023. So with that,
hey, Kannan, sorry, one last question. Remember you were talking about initially the Google code contribution, right? You said that initially you are doing some and then later, if all the contributions from Google already came in, and where are we at that?
I think I clarified in that statement itself, right? So, sorry, I think somebody's talking.
I can speak, Kandan, right? So to Kandan's point, right? We are working on more seed code to be released. Expect tranches of that happening in the coming weeks, well before the R1 release schedule. We'll share the updates very soon with you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, bye-bye.
Right.
Bye.